Uh, I can see, man, from your affidavit that you have been for some time with the Forensic Science Laboratory. It's said it's almost 29 years or so. 24 years. Yes, thank you. One of the experts from the Ballistic Forensic Science Laboratory told this court that each and every exhibit that gets into the Forensic Science Laboratory must be registered. Do you also share the same view? That expert said that the reason for that is to trace is to track or trace the movement of that exhibit. Do you also share the same reason? Now, what are the legalities? And I'm asking these questions based on the fact that you are an expert within the perimeters of the ballistic unit. What are the legalities of an exhibit that gets into the Forensic Science Laboratory in a way other than it being registered at the administrative section of the Forensic Science Laboratory? Mind to give an example?
Really, in the ideal circumstances, the case of anything like this, the officers that receive the case of the legislate and the required process. For example, if you collect a report of you have to spend it depends on the crime situation. Maybe, for example, collect a small sample of a plank of wood that you cut out yourself. It will then be sealed at the scene, for example, and you will register it at the ballistic administration section.
I will go back to the reason why an exhibit that is capable of being packaged into a sealed bag should be put in the sealed bag, and the seal thereof should be sealed before it gets sent to the Forensic Science Laboratory. The experts have elucidated on that aspect for quite some time now. They've explained the reason for that. So me and you won't go to that aspect again. In which that firearm was broken. Now the question is, in view of the fact that each and every exhibit that is supposed to get into the Forensic Science Laboratory, it had to follow certain protocol. And in this instance, such protocol was never followed. What is the view of the Forensic Science Laboratory in respect of this protocol that was not followed?
Firstly, my lord, there will be circumstances as to why Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, if we're not talking about the same person, would go to the SAP 13 and collect the firearm. There would be a reason, therefore. As to that, I cannot elaborate. I don't know what the reason is. You didn't explain that to me. Further, the exhibits received at case administration at the Forensic Science Laboratory are handed in by investigating officers and are accompanied by a covering letter and then, as you said, acknowledgement of receipt. This covering letter, for example, will mention exhibits that are handed in and to the analysis they require. So this process will then essentially not be applicable, as Colonel Mangena is not an investigating officer with a covering letter handing it in at case reception.
So guys, I think I have finally figured it out. I have finally figured out why the crime rate is so high in South Africa. I figured out why she said they are testing guns every day in that ballistics department. It is a daily thing that they're doing countrywide. It's not just a one-off. No, it is consistently confirming how alarmingly high the crime rate is here in South Africa. Do you know what I figured out? I figured out it's because the police themselves are glitz, okay? Because how is this woman saying, how on earth is this ballistic forensic Ntontoni expert captain, I can't recall, saying Mangena is not an investigating officer? So just because he went to collect the gun himself at Cleveland, he's not an investigating officer. The rule is for it to be registered in administration, it has to come in through an investigating officer with an accompanying letter. But it's obvious Mangena is not an investigating officer, so this procedure that you're requesting is null and void. It does not work in this case. So what is concerning for me is the fact that she missed the part that he shouldn't be handling the firearm in the first place. He shouldn't be going all the way to Cleveland to go pick it up. Gininda, or AKA any investigating officer, should have brought that firearm to the Pretoria Silverton Forensic Ballistic Laboratory and then went to the admin and then submitted it there, got a receipt that they've submitted it, and then admin follows their process of distributing the firearm within the department. So it might or might not have gone to Mangena, but we both know, or should I say we all know, that this process, breaking of process, this thing that happened, Mangena going to Cleveland and picking up the gun himself, the firearm himself, after Gininda gives him a call and says, hey, guess what? I have a pistol. It's about to be destroyed over there at Cleveland. Go pick it up, do some test shots, see how you can make the striations match with the exhibit bullet from the Spaza house. Yeah, the grooves might not be equivalent, but you'll see how to do it. Besides, nobody knows ballistics. You're just going to go to court. It's going to be an easy thing. Except the defense messed up the plan and hired a legal expert who taught them about striations, grooves, ditches, and. You see what I'm saying? So basically, and I'm alleging, this is just how I imagine everything is going, because there is no way this woman thinks this is normal. There is no way she thinks it's She's justifying Mangena going to pick up a firearm as if he went to pick up bread from Woolworths, like Thabo Bester when he was busted at Woolworths. But you know what? I digress. Let's continue listening on. Maybe, just maybe, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
As when Colonel Mangena receives, when you receive anything from an SIP 13, my lord, there are specific procedures that are followed at the specific SIP 13, which are police procedures. So I would then expect that even if Lieutenant Colonel Mangena collected the exhibit himself, he would have followed those specific procedures.
This court has been told that he went to the SAP 13 at the instructions of the investigating officer. In other words, the investigating officer said to him, I've got information that a certain firearm that the warrant rule of the work on could be involved in this case. Can you please go fetch it at SAP 13? That is the reason why he personally went there. And he came and told this court that the reason why he did not request the investigating officer to go fetch it himself is because he himself knew exactly where to find that firearm. That is what he told this court. Do you follow?
I follow, my lord.
I was just addressing something. So
No, thank you. I think you need to stay. I'm saying, for the benefit of Mr. Jonas, Mr. Mangena told this court that the reason why he personally went to the SAP 13 himself, it's because the investigating officer, Lieutenant Colonel Gininda, Mr. Gininda told him that there is a firearm that warrant officer rule of the work on, which could be linked in this case.
Sorry, can you proceed? Sorry.
Thank you. He then requested Mr. Mangena to go there personally fetch the firearm. And the reason why Mr. Mangena did not request Gininda to bring it to him was that Mangena knew specifically where to find that firearm. Do you follow?
I follow, my lord. I just don't understand the concept of knew exactly where to find the firearm.
Yeah,
Is he referring
listen,
to the...
maybe they're not telling you the whole story. Keninda's evidence, Mangena's evidence is that this firearm was involved in a Cleveland case where somebody else was charged with unlawful possession of that very same firearm. And that case was finalized. That's one of the aspects which you're not being told. That case was finalized. So according to Mangena, when he goes to fetch that firearm, it's supposed to be just destroyed. It's not going to be investigated in any other matter except the one which he assumes it could be relevant to. Okay.
Okunye ke okusho kwabahlulelile ummeli angakusho kwenabi ukuthi ke futhi ke wayekwazi ke uMangena ukuthi ke isibhamu sonke sasihlanganiswa ke necala ke lase Cleveland la ekwakunomuntu khona ke owayethweswe ke lelo cala lelo bebe sokuthi ke manje ke maseqediwe ke ngalelo cala alikho imicala bezohlanganiswa naso lesi sibhamu lesi ngoba ke seliqediwe leliyana.
That's okay, Mnisi. That's okay. I see it. It's written all over your face. You are absolutely shocked as I am. Because what was that? Judge Ratha suddenly took over cross-examination and decided what he wanted to put on the record to the witness. And Mnisi's left shocked, shaking his head and thinking, wow, South Africa is surely a movie. Because why is this man speaking during my cross-examination? The witness never asked a question, and who said I couldn't answer the question myself? Why on earth did Judge Ratha descend into the arena? Somebody tell me that in the comment section, because wow. But then I pick up something really important because, hello, he wanted to tell us because he listens, right? He said when Mangena goes to pick up the firearm, that is supposed to be destroyed since it won't be investigated in another case. Except this one, of course. It suddenly hits me and I say, why do they destroy firearms? How do they know they've acquired all possible cases that this firearm has been used for? I'll give you an example. If we go to the AKA case, the firearm, there was a runner who was going to get the firearm from wherever they rented the firearm. They did the pow, ended AKA's life, and then returned the firearm back. So the firearm might not belong to one person, but it's a working firearm, okay? It is always working. It is always doing the Inkabi work. So why are they destroying it? Because destroying it is not going to end the Inkabi profession. There's a rat, and I smell a rat, and I smell a big rotten rat. Also, this was too specific for Mangena to be able to just find the matching firearm. Not from IBS, but because Geninda called him and said, I think we have a suspect here. That has never made any sense to me. But you know what? Let's continue on. Let's hear how Mnisi handles the judge.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was saying. That warrant officer, rule officer, worked on this firearm. He completed his examination in this firearm, put it in the seal bag, and this firearm was sent back to the police station where it came from.
I understand.
I only omitted to mention the name of the police station, which is Cleveland. And at the police station, the SAP 13 clerk, yes, I think it's Mr. Mchali, then received instruction that he needed to prepare that firearm for destruction.
I understand, madam.
But before that process could eventuate, then Mr. Mangena and Mr. Kininda approached or informed Mr. Mangena that no, that firearm that warrant officer, rule officer worked on could be involved in this case.
I understand, madam.
Could you then please go and fetch it? That is exactly where I am. Now, would you agree with me that as soon as that firearm was released by the Forensic Science Laboratory after warrant officer, rule officer worked on it, it went out of the perimeters of the Forensic Science Laboratory? In other words, it was released.
It left the property, my lord, if that is what you're trying to say.
Now, because the forensic science laboratory knew that such an exhibit is no longer in our possession, what should have been the proper protocol in respect of its return back into the forensic science laboratory?
My lord, this is an exception. There isn't necessarily specific protocol because this is something out of the ordinary. It is not a standard norm or an average case that we get to examine in the laboratory.
What is ordinary about this?
There's nothing ordinary about this case in terms of the collection of the firearm. I'm saying ordinary case, received at case reception, following the process, handed to the analyst, you do it in your office, you reseal it, you hand it back to the safe. That is an ordinary daily case.
I did not understand you when you speak about extraordinary. Were you saying that this case was an extraordinary case?
This specific situation would be extraordinary as to now the firearm is up for
Yes.
destruction and it is at the SAP 13.
Yes.
And Colonel Mangena would like to re-examine the firearm.
Yes.
That is something else.
That is exactly my question. What is extraordinary about that?
I would assume that in order to prevent the firearm from being sent for destruction, Colonel Mangena took immediate action to ensure that he can collect the firearm, that it is available for recollection. Once it is destroyed, it cannot be re-examined. So, in my opinion, it would be to prevent such an event from occurring.
Claude.
What do you say about the fact that he received information from the investigating officer? Should he not have said to the investigating officer, no, bring that firearm yourself?
It depends on the situation, my lord. I cannot comment as to why the investigating officer asked Colonel Mangena to collect it.
Thank you. But now, even so, upon Mr. Mangena's arrival with the firearm in the forensic science laboratory, did he not have to go through the proper channel of registering the firearm through the administrative section of the forensic science laboratory?
Not necessarily, my lord, because the case has been registered. It's the same firearm received. There's no specific procedure that needs to be followed.
Well,
As long as Colonel Mangena kept record of his actions, that it would be sufficient.
Now, what about the notion that every exhibit that gets into the into the forensic science laboratory needs to be registered in order to track its movement? Where does that fit in the fact that Mr. Mangena did not register his firearm?
In terms of tracking an exhibit, my lord, there are several people handling that specific exhibit. Once it is received, it is received by an administrative person who registers it. From there, the ballistic administration section will come collect the specific firearm. From there, it will be placed in the ballistic safe. From there, it will be handed over to an analyst by someone working in the safe. So there are several people involved in handling that specific exhibit. So for the example of this specific case, Colonel Mangena is the only one handling the firearm.
Are you suggesting, ma'am, that you could also have gone to a scene somewhere, go fetch the firearm and not register it and take it into your laboratory and work on it?
The way this Captain Grover started the day and the way it ended, absolute disaster. The more she kept talking, the more she revealed just how much of a department that actually is, where everybody does as they please, when they please, and how they please. There's absolutely no rule of law. However, as civilians, we are expected to follow the law that even the policemen themselves are not adhering to. They cannot even adhere to the bare minimum over there at the ballistics section, Dontoni, okay? Colonel, I cannot recall, Captain, I cannot recall. She didn't take down any notes. When she did the comparison of the exhibit and the test bullets. But then she says, and I quote, as long as Colonel Mangena kept a record of his actions, then that would be sufficient. Where are your records for us to feel that is sufficient? I smell a rat, a very, very rotten rat. Then she goes on to highlight again. It's like she doesn't connect the things that she's saying with what she said a few minutes ago. She goes on to say there are several people involved with an exhibit when it gets to the lab. So at all times, somebody knows what's going on with it. But Mnisi goes, Mangena went to pick it up and nobody knows it was there. What do you mean there are several people that none of these several people handled the exhibit for the Voslorus case? Okay? Nobody handled it. It might as well have, Mangena might as well have been taking it out every day and going to commit crimes with it. What about that? What if he was moonlighting at night as an Inkari? What if he was renting out that gun as an Inkari? Nobody knows about it. You know what? I've said way too much. It's above my pay grade. Let me go ahead and end this video right here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You know the house rules. I'm just in a state of shock with what she just said. I just need to process that. I'll be back with more videos, but thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on my next upload. Thanks for watching. Catch you on my next upload.